Every year on April Fool's, which is Subaru's birthday, Tappei releases a new What If story. This year, in the year of 2025, Tappei has released the Azamuku IF story, also known as the Natsumi IF. In this video, I'll be summarizing the IF story. However, it does contain spoilers for Arc 7, so if you're not up to Arc 7, the story won't really make that much sense to you. This video is meant to be consumed as a sort of audio video, so even though there are images on screen, they're random and there will be a lot of repeats, so I highly recommend you keep the video open, play a video game, and whilst you're playing, feel free to listen to me as you do chores or something. With one cog slipping, the story will twist. The tracks of fate twist dramatically. Yet if one reaches the shore unchanged and unyielding, it must be because they are unshakable. Their desire deceived fate itself. That was the meaning of his life. The scene changes. The girl ran, her leg hurts, and she held the hand of a girl she did not know. She did not know the child's name, but she knew she had to keep moving. She had to keep running. In a world where everything was unknown to her, her instinct cried out to her. She pictured the black-haired man with sharp eyes. A voice called out, "Yeah, that's an Oni. Rare to see one." The woman had an eye patch on and had brown skin. The brown-skinned girl says that she was there to capture them. Rem tried to fight, but Velakia easily knocked Rem and Rui Arneb out. As Rem lost consciousness, Velakia says, "Let's go, little Oni." Rem knew that Oni wasn't her name, so what was it? Rem, the voice called out. The black-haired man's voice rang out in her head. Maybe it was an illusion, but the name felt familiar. The scene changes. Subaru pondered over the events that transpired, a reunion which was broken apart. However, a voice rang out, "Ka ka 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 ka! Kids are scary. I haven't seen recklessness like this before." A hand then pierced Subaru from behind, pulling out his heart. He died. The scene changes. How could a human like you slip past the dragon's eyes? The woman swung her arm and a gale formed, blowing Subaru into the castle wall, shattering his body and killing him. The scene changes. "You deceived my eyes. I don't know how." The marble arm swung down. Subaru dodged, but he couldn't dodge forever. The third strike paralyzed him, and then the fourth compressed his body, killing him. The scene changes. Who goes there? Do you know whose castle this is? The violet thorns pierced Subaru, draining him of blood. Instant death. The scene changes. "There he is. Don't let him escape." Subaru ran away. He fled, but he was cornered. They didn't listen to his pleas. The swords rained down on him, each one a fatal blow. He died. Had Subaru's first choice been wrong? Subaru experienced death 5 times, thinking that the person close to him, Rem, might be suffering the same fate, almost crushed his heart. What did he need? What checkpoint did he have to reach? Subaru made his way to the luxurious palace, broke into an unguarded window, and entered. Immediately he heard, "You fool," and he was swept off his feet. Death number 6 was coming. However, death did not come. A voice simply asked how he got into the castle. A man with black hair and black eyes looked at him. The man asked Subaru again, but Subaru noticed an anomaly. The regal mirror next to Vincent had a reflection. However, instead of Vincent being reflected in the mirror, it was that of a person with pale skin and white clothes. This anomaly caught Subaru off guard. Subaru introduces himself as Natsuki Subaru, and Vincent introduces himself as Vincent Velakia, and Vincent realizes that he is the little girl tamer from Lagonica. The fate of Subaru and of Vincent Velakia, who should never have met, crossed paths that day. The scene changes. I've brought them. Arakia walks into the room with Rem on her shoulder, and also Rui Arneb. Subaru was present and was shocked that Rem was there and called out to Rem, but Arakia then kicked him in the solar plexus. Regardless, Subaru still checked to see if Rem was okay, and Arakia states that they will wake up soon. Subaru says he doesn't care about the blonde one. Arakia didn't really like that answer. Regardless, that girl was Rui Arneb, the Sin Archbishop of Gluttony, someone who had no tangible body, but somehow now had one. Subaru thanked Arakia for not hurting Rem, and asked Arakia for her name. She introduces herself, and Subaru says that he owes Arakia a favor. Subaru thanks Arakia and turns to the man. The man introduces himself as Vincent Velakia, the 77th Emperor of Velakia. Arakia says maybe it's a little lie, but Vincent tells Arakia to listen or she won't reclaim what she lost. Arakia placed Rem and Louis on the sofa, and Vincent calls Subaru a little girl user again. Subaru says to call him by his name, Natsuki Subaru, and that he doesn't have any little girls with him. Arakia then points to Louis Arneb, and Subaru says that she doesn't count. Subaru then repeats himself, stating that he was at the Pleiades watchtower when a portion of the Witch of Envy awoke, and then the next thing he knew, he was in Velakia. Arakia says that it sounds like a lie. Subaru says why would he make up such an absurd story? Subaru says Beatrice and Emilia are probably worried about him. Vincent says he had a clumsy infiltration into the palace, and that the only notable thing was that he used his real name, stating that maybe he's a bad spy. Vincent further points out that he is the knight of a royal candidate of Lagonica, so it could be a big issue. Vincent states that Subaru's mere presence could nullify the non-aggression pact between Velakia and Lagonica. Subaru says to not nullify the agreement. Subaru wouldn't forgive himself if he caused two countries to go to war. However, a voice says that His Excellency doesn't have time to be picking a fight with a different country. We see that the person that said this was Ubilk. Ubilk pops around the door. Vincent says that he doesn't remember asking Ubilk to come to the chamber, but Ubilk says that it's his role as a stargazer. Subaru asks who the man is, and Ubilk says that he's a stargazer and refers to Subaru as the stargazer of Lagonica. He goes on to say that Vincent probably came to the same conclusion. Vincent then asks if a puppet of the stars like Ubilk can even understand his intentions. Ubilk says that he doesn't understand Vincent's intentions, but states that Subaru is a useful card to use, further stating that they have a hostage, which is Rem. Vincent says that Subaru arrived on the eve of war. Subaru is confused, asking who's Velakia going to war with, and Vincent taps the table, and Subaru understands an internal war. Vincent states that it's a civil war between Velakia and the rebels. Vincent states if he wants to survive, he must work with him. In detention, Rem awoke, and Subaru went to check on her. Rem then asked why he was there and shoved him away. Subaru flew through the air, landing on Ubilk, causing both of them to roll across the floor. Rem then scanned the room. Locking onto Arakia, Rem was startled, and Vincent tells them to be quiet. Rui then wakes up and rubs her eyes. The scene changes. It was no doubt that Rem and Subaru were criminals, who would have been executed 7 times over. The Prime Minister states he would want to put Subaru under house arrest so he doesn't become a future problem. But Subaru thinks about it. Vincent listens to him. Everyone else instantly killed him, so maybe Vincent isn't too bad. Subaru then tells the Prime Minister that he's not scheming, he just wants to go back to Lagonica. The Prime Minister states, with the border closed, plus his appearance, he cannot be let go. Subaru was being kept in the Prime Minister's mansion. "I'm back," a voice rang out. Subaru walked back to his room. He called out to Madeline-chan. Madeline says not to add endings to her name. Since Madeline was always in and out of the mansion, Subaru often bumped into her. The Prime Minister asked Madeline what happened to the rebels who wanted Goz to be released. Madeline says that she crushed them. Subaru had learned a lot about Velakia. Madeline and Goz were part of the 9 Divine Generals, and Goz went against the Emperor and was imprisoned. The people rebelling were probably soldiers who liked Goz, but sticking up for Goz meant that you became a traitor also, and your fate was sealed. Even though Lagonica was not like Japan, Velakia was a different story. Subaru says he cannot break down for Rem's sake, and Rem says, "What?" Subaru is caught off guard. Rui hugs Subaru, and Rem tells her not to get close or else Subaru will say mean stuff to her. Subaru agrees, telling Rui to keep her distance. Subaru flung Rui off, and Rem hugged Rui. And Rem chastises Subaru for treating Rui like that. After all, she's just a small child. Subaru tells Rem that the child is a bomb that's ready to go off at any moment. And Rem says that Subaru stinks, so she doesn't trust him. Rem then asks why Subaru is reacting that way, and Subaru is nostalgic since it's been a very long time since he heard that he stinks from her, so he feels a bit emotional. Given that Rem had no memories, it made sense since she could obviously only smell Subaru's miasma. Regardless, Subaru is happy that he's closing the gap between him and Rem. Rem doesn't understand Subaru, but think about it. When Subaru first met Rem at the Crystal Palace, Rem ran away, but now she doesn't, meaning that they made some progress. Madeline asks Rem for assistance in the bath, and the Prime Minister notices Madeline and Rem are very close. Subaru then asks if the Prime Minister is collecting people with rare bloodlines, and the Prime Minister says that in some way he is. Asking if the little girl user wants to hear more about it, Subaru then backs down. Subaru then says to the Prime Minister Rem is his. Rem shouts across the hallway saying, "I can hear you!" Rui was clinging to Rem, and Subaru did not like it. Kafma then calls out to Subaru. Subaru recognizes Kafma since in a prior loop, Kafma killed Subaru with the violet thorns. Kafma states that Subaru is being summoned and he will only be told the information that is necessary. Subaru tells Rem to have dinner without him, and Rem says to take care. The scene changes. Subaru is in a dragon carriage, upset about being taken far away from Rem. Vincent states he's accompanying Vincent to Chaos Flame. Subaru wants more information. Vincent then looks at Subaru. Well, not Subaru, but Natsumi Schwartz. We see Subaru is cross-dressing, and Vincent is unsure about it. Subaru states to avoid any conflict, he should avoid anyone else knowing his true identity. Vincent states that Subaru coming was Ubilk's recommendation. Subaru did have a way, for example, to foresee the future, albeit it was by using Return by Death. By learning of events, then avoiding them by using Return by Death, it would make Subaru seem like a prophet, similar to the Stargazers. However, Subaru noticed something was wrong with Return by Death, namely his checkpoints. He noted that Velakia was very far from Lagonica. Maybe distance played a factor, and the Witch of Envy's powers did not reach that far. What if Subaru died at the westernmost point of Kararagi? Would Return by Death still work? He didn't know, nor did he want to try and test it. Vincent states they're going to speak to Yorna, and Vincent reveals that Arakia hasn't returned, so she's either dead or captured. This upsets Subaru, as Arakia was the one who got Rem to Vincent. Subaru considered Arakia someone he owed something to. Subaru asked why he's learning about this now. Vincent states that Arakia is the second Divine General. Her movements are a secret, meaning that the fact that Subaru knows that she's missing is unprecedented. Vincent states that both Cecilis and Arakia are now unavailable, and Gauze is also locked up, so they need to speak to Yorna, with Vincent stating that Yorna had rebelled 2 times in the past. Subaru is upset. If he knew in the past, had Vincent told him earlier, he could have used Return by Death to help Arakia. Regardless, Subaru says he will ensure the Emperor is safe. Vincent says he has to, since there are hostages, and Subaru says he doesn't need to go that far. They arrived at Chaos Flame. The scene changed. "Vengeance for my late sister, traveller with black hair and eyes?" The woman with blue-tipped hair shouted. This was Tarita. Subaru pushed the Emperor out of the way, and he was hit with an arrow. Subaru coughed up blood. Vincent says it's a very serious wound, and asked why he did something so out of character. Subaru says he likes to do at least one good deed a day. Vincent picks up Subaru and walks forward through Chaos Flame. In the sky, Olbart is fighting Arakia and Yorna. It seems that Arakia had swapped sides to the rebel army. Vincent laments not foreseeing it. "Vincent Velakia," a voice shouted out. Vincent turned. Standing there was a man wearing an Oni mask. This was the rebel leader. It went without saying they couldn't let this man speak to Yorna. He's asked for his name, and he says that his name is Abel. Subaru continued to bleed out on Vincent Velakia's back. An axe appeared and went to cleave Vincent's neck, but thorns bloomed and blocked it. Another man stepped forwards and cut down the thorns. The 2 men then stood next to Abel. They were Todd and Jamal. Kafma then stepped between Abel, Jamal, Todd, Vincent, who was carrying Subaru on his back. Kafma tells Vincent to retreat. Vincent turns. Vincent states that he cannot let Subaru die. Vincent creates some distance away from the fight and puts Subaru down on the ground. Vincent closed his eyes. This was the first time that Subaru saw Vincent close both eyes. Vincent then muttered, "Blue." Vincent's face peeled off, flesh ripping from bone, and the face of Felix appeared. Felix used his transcendent healing magic to heal Subaru's wounds. Subaru's consciousness started to come back, and he grabbed the person in front of him, asking if he is Capella, the Sin Archbishop of Lust. But Vincent says no. Vincent says that he's using the stagnant mana in Subaru. After a bit of the healing, it's done and Subaru's back to normal condition. Felix's face then crumbles, revealing the face of a pale man with gold eyes. Subaru had never seen this person before. No, wait, he did once before. When he met Vincent in the palace, in the regal mirror, there was a reflection. The reflection was someone in white with gold eyes. "Chisha Gold," the voice responds. The man corrects Subaru, stating that he's not Capella, his name is Chisha Gold. Subaru says, "Isn't Chisha Gold a divine general?" And Chisha states he is. He's in number 4, and he is a shadow of the Emperor. But Chisha states in reality he is the rebel who usurped the throne. This is the meeting between Subaru and the white spider, Chisha Gold. Chisha explains his ability allows him to use the colors of people to imitate them and use their abilities. Since Chisha met Felix in the past, he could use Felix's abilities. Subaru surmises that Goz probably knew that Chisha was a fake and rebelled. Chisha then confirms it, and Subaru was happy that his deduction worked out. After all, Goz was a loyal man, he wouldn't rebel for no reason. Subaru also realizes that Chisha isn't aiming for the throne. After all, if he wanted the throne, he could have simply killed Vincent and taken the throne, because that is the rules of Velakia, the strong survive. But the fact that he kept Vincent's absence hidden means that he has another goal. Subaru asks if Chisha can reuse his masks, and Chisha says that he cannot. Subaru understands because he did see Felix's mask break, and also Vincent's mask that he took off also broke apart into dust. Subaru tells Chisha to tell him the truth. If there's a great disaster coming, it's all up to them to solve it together. Chisha then explains that a great disaster is coming, and he must set up a game to solve it. Subaru says that he understands. Subaru had come to a decision. He would help Velakia. He would help Chisha Gold. "Oh, fate, bring it on," Subaru mutters. The scene changes. "Excuse me, Governor? This is an order from the Emperor," Natsumi Schwartz demanded. We see he is on the Gladiator Island, speaking to Gustav. Chisha Gold is also in the room, and Chisha chastises Natsumi for not understanding Gustav's orders. We see Chisha and Natsumi are playing a game of good cop and bad cop, with Natsumi being the villainess, stating that she is a candidate to be wed to Vincent Velakia, so she's essentially the empress, and Chisha is being respectful. This tactic is being used to try and curb power of the rebels and increase their chances of victory. Let time rewind a bit. Time had passed since Subaru and Chisha joined teams. The fight in Chaos Flame died down, with Obart and Kathma surviving, and Abel and his two men retreating with Arakia. It was a draw. Yorna stated that she would fortify herself in the magical city, and she refused to join either side. Both Subaru and Chisha felt defeated, as Chisha lost Vincent's mask and Subaru nearly died. Subaru had heard from the Prime Minister that he used Madeline to attack the fortified city of Guaral. However, Abel, the Emperor, was able to hold things together, albeit the city was destroyed. Abel and his allies spread that the Emperor in the capital was fake, but since Chisha lost Vincent's mask, he couldn't show himself as the real Emperor anymore. The only way to deal with it was to capture those who spread the fake information. Obart had lost his arm, and Kathma barely survived. We see that Subaru died multiple times in Chaos Flame. Obart and Kathma would constantly die to surprise attacks. Arakia always dealt the final blow, but it was always the guy with the bandana that caused the opening. No matter how many times Subaru encountered him, he never gained any information about the man with the bandana. Subaru was shocked to see Arakia as an enemy. However, the bandana guy was a scarier opponent than even Arakia. Chisha says that Arakia on the rebel side will even out the battlefield. Subaru wonders if Vincent is hated. How can he ever reclaim the throne if people are rebelling? If he reclaimed the throne, wouldn't people still oust him? Chisha states that he calculated all the scenarios. It would work out. Trust him. Subaru asks if they should tell Goz what is going on, but Chisha says that it's a high-risk gamble. Subaru also wonders if Chisha can deal with Arakia since he's also a divine general, and he says he'll be burnt to a crisp within seconds. And Subaru says, well, yeah, he does look like a strategist rather than a fighter. Subaru goes through the divine generals and asks about Cecilus. Chisha says that Cecilus isn't available now. Subaru states that when dealing with Arakia, you need someone stronger. Chisha lamented it, but they came to the conclusion that they would need to use Cecilus. Chisha stated to the public that the Emperor was ill and that any issues were dealt with by the Prime Minister. Subaru charges in to a room asking if Rem is okay. Rem then asks why Subaru is cross-dressing, and Subaru says it's to hide his identity. Rem says that she's glad he is safe, but Subaru says that his stomach was blown off. We see Rem was a bit shocked. Rem's leg has also started to heal. Rem then asks about the rumors of Natsumi Schwartz becoming the Empress. Subaru says it's so that he could stand in for the Emperor. Subaru says Velakia is dangerous, so he will use the best strategy to survive, and Rem says cross-dressing is the best strategy? And Subaru says exactly. Natsumi Schwartz and Chisha travelled the land on behalf of the Emperor, with Chisha being there to add credibility. Natsumi Schwartz alone wouldn't have enough credibility, so having a divine general to have her back gave credibility to the fact that Natsumi Schwartz might be married to the Emperor, and therefore she would be the Empress. They went across the land and rallied that support, and they went to the Gladiator Island to get the support of Gustav, who is of course the leader of the Gladiator Island. However, Gustav did not budge. After all, the real Emperor told Gustav to not listen to any orders unless it was coming from him exactly. Furthermore, there was also a curse on the island, killing those who tried to escape. Subaru and Chisha were also unable to escape the island because Gustav didn't let them leave. Cecilis was interested in Natsumi Schwartz because of his mannerisms. Subaru then asks if Cecilis can join them if he's interested, but Cecilis says that he is undecided since after all he is the leading actor. Subaru and Chisha poured a lot of effort into it. In one loop, Gustav asks if that's the witch, and indeed it is, says Cecilis. Chisha then collapsed to the floor, his eyes were bleeding. We see that Chisha tried to use Subaru's mask, however the mask immediately crumbled, and the witch was not happy about that. The taboo was broken, and now the witch was there to bring the end of the world. Despite the looming witch, Cecilis did not back down. Gustav went to rally the men, but nowhere they went would be safe. Soon the witch would devour the island. The penalty for violating the taboo, which caused the witch to appear, similar to the sanctuary. But Subaru will try and do everything he can to resist. Chisha then walked up and followed Cecilis and stood side by side with Cecilis. Subaru knew that Cecilis's condition was probably due to Chisha gold. Chisha then dons a mask of the blue lightning, transforming into the adult Cecilis. The young Cecilis looks at the adult Cecilis and says, "Oh, you look familiar." The two lightnings dash at the manifested witch as they dance in a once-in-a-lifetime stage. The scene changes. Tomorrow, the real confrontation will begin. Chisha sips wine overlooking the royal palace. Subaru drinks milk. Chisha thanks Subaru. We see that both Chisha and Cecilis managed to repel the witch, who had barely manifested, and now Cecilis was awaiting the next battle. Chisha wonders about Subaru's skills, like his cross-dressing. Subaru states that he learned about it from his home, from over the great waterfall. Chisha says, it makes sense since Subaru has such a different value system when it comes to things like life. However, Subaru says that Chisha is the same. He tore off the Emperor's mask and used Felix's mask to save him. Chisha says he did that since Subaru being alive has greater value than having Vincent's mask. Subaru says that it does make sense for Chisha to think like that, since he was grown on the Velakian soil, so he's got the culture of Velakia. Subaru says that even if he hates Velakia, he doesn't hate those who grow on the Velakian soil. Subaru then asks if Chisha believes him when he says he's from the Great Waterfall and the lands beyond the Great Waterfall. Chisha says it's easier to believe that than believing Subaru is a witch cultist. Subaru is also glad that he didn't reveal his past to Rem, stating that she would have disliked him even more. Chisha says that her baseline likeness to Subaru is always low anyway. We see that Subaru told Chisha why Rem has no memories. Chisha then states he never intended to use Cecilis. Chisha says that he used a mask to turn Cecilis into a child, and he put him on the island so he couldn't be a factor in the great disaster. Chisha says that only people like Halibel and Reinhard are on Cecilis' level. Subaru says it isn't just because Chisha is strong when he transformed into adult Cecilis, but Chisha has certain qualities about him, before saying that he can't really explain it. But Vincent is truly lucky to have him. Chisha agrees. Subaru says, wait, you're not being humble. But Chisha says that in Velakia you need to show your strengths. Subaru says, well, it's a true meritocracy. Subaru looks at the sky. The stars had become familiar to him. Like those in Velakia, Subaru states that a lot of people are kind. Meguro is the most human. Madeline is caring. Obart lost an arm but didn't give in to despair. Not only that, Chisha helped him. Subaru says in Velakia, 80% of his time was with Chisha. They share a laugh together, and Subaru says after Vincent reclaims the throne, since Chisha usurped the throne, he can of course be exiled to Lagonica. Subaru wanted to take Rem across the lands she knew, and if Emilia, Beatrice and even the exiled Swordwolf came along, Subaru wouldn't mind the company. Subaru thanks Rui too, who was always helping Rem in Velakia. Chisha goes to speak, but goes against it. Subaru wonders if he's setting up a flag, but he says it's the opposite, but he'll hold off for now. Chisha continues to sip his wine. Unknown to anyone, the board to counter the great disaster was put into place, and Chisha would have to face the consequences. Subaru also found his path back to Lagonica after this final battle. Subaru shouts that this battle will be their victory. Chisha says he respects Subaru's spirit. The alliance between Subaru and Chisha wasn't by choice, but from a shared circumstance, a pledge between two people who deceived the Velakian Empire, a night of certain vows. That night marked the final one for Subaru and Chisha Gold. Subaru awoke, noticing he was in a box with Rui and Rem. He jumped up, but his head hit the roof. Rem says that they're in a dragon carriage, back to Lagonica. Subaru asks about the rebel army, and Rem says that Subaru didn't wake up. Thinking back, Subaru realizes that Chisha gave him milk, meaning that Chisha probably orchestrated this and put something in the milk to knock Subaru out. Chisha intended to remove Subaru from the board. Subaru shouts to let them out, but Rem says they'll be let out at the Lagonica border. Subaru tries to use invisible providence to break the lock, but it doesn't work. Rem was upset. She had made friends. She befriended Madeline and Katya. She also learned how to use her healing magic. Subaru shouts to let him out, and Rui makes a noise. Subaru tells Rui to be quiet, understanding that he's taken his frustration out on Rui. As Rem holds Rui and Rui holds Subaru, they warp. Subaru is shocked, and so is Rem, but Subaru understands. This is the authority of gluttony. Subaru thanked Rui, asking her if they can teleport to the capital, but she says no by shaking her head. Rem, however, blows a dragon bone whistle that Madeline gave her. A wyvern flies down from the sky and kneels before Rem. They jump on the wyvern and flew to the imperial capital. The scene changes. Ubilk, Chisha and Cecilis are in the palace. Cecilis states no matter what, he would have ended up in the palace. After all, he's the star actor. Cecilis then turns away to go to battle, and Chisha wishes him luck. He deceived, lied, schemed, trapped and manipulated. He didn't particularly enjoy deceiving others, but it was his specialty. Cecilis said a lot of words, but sometimes he said things of value, especially about actors being on a stage. But what was Chisha's role? We see that Chisha is now all alone, sitting on the throne. There is a little emotion to be found, even looking at the throne from below. A man appeared, stating that the man wore an Oni mask, the leader of the rebels, the one true emperor, Vincent Velakia. Vincent asked if Chisha had gained what he wanted by exiling him. Vincent overcame many obstacles and ended up back right at the royal palace with his wit. Chisha says that isn't the case, and he actually wants the emperor's cooperation. Vincent says even after taking everything from him, he still wants more, stating that Chisha fanned the flames of war. Vincent takes off the Oni mask, revealing his face as Vincent Velakia, albeit his complexion was worse. His cheekbones were more pronounced. Vincent had neglected himself. Chisha then calls to Vincent, calling him Your Excellency, saying that his weakness is overseeing the entire game board. Chisha then uses the sun mask, transforming himself into Prisca Benedict. Seeing Prisca Benedict, Vincent was stunned for a moment. Chisha uses opportunity to run close to Vincent, touching him, and in that split moment he made a wise emperor mask before transforming into Vincent Velakia, and then in the same moment he put the Oni mask on Vincent's face to cover his identity. To oversee the entire game board, to think of things efficiently, and to define the value of every piece equally. For Vincent, who lacked the awareness that he was part of the actors on the stage, the true meaning of Chisha's actions would never reach him. But it was fine. To deceive the observers, trap the great disaster, and deceive Vincent Velakia. If he could accomplish all of that, then what Chisha sought would surely shine. Chisha pushed Vincent away, and Vincent displayed an emotion that would rarely be seen on his face. A beam of light pierced Chisha's chest. He was Chisha Gold, and he died. The resurrected dead, led by the witch who wishes for the Empire's destruction, set the world aflame. The gathered 9 divine generals, now aligned with a different force than in the historical records, alter their fates, even changing life and death. Each one burning their life to the fullest in pursuit of their greatest martial potential. The women who had gone to the neighboring country to search for the important boy, witnessing the Empire's monumental turning point, still do not lose hope, and continue to burn their bonds in the midst of it all. And the woman who bears one half of the Yang sword, which should never have existed, shines with unchanging arrogant beauty, burning her soul in response to the witch who expresses her anger towards the twisted army of the dead. At the center of this story, colored by flames, those who have witnessed the death of the man who deceived everything shout with hoarse voices. They shed tears of blood and crack their souls as they burn their fate. Stand up! Don't give up! Giving up is absolutely unforgivable. You should already know what lie he told and why he did it. Shut up, fool. What do you think you're telling me? I am? You are? The 77th Emperor of the Holy Velakia Empire, Vincent Velakia. The man trembles as his knee threatens to buckle, but he manages to stand up, fighting back the tears in his heart. The boy clenches his fist. Blaming himself for not being able to help, the girl raises her head, realizing there is still something they can do. The child beside her points towards the great disaster, shaking the imperial capital, and roars. From the large hole in the shattered city wall, the men look down upon the city. They exchange glances as Natsuki Subaru and Vincent Velakia, two who should have met earlier by fate, two who should have been entrusted with the task of deceiving destiny, stand side by side to confront the oncoming great disaster. Together they look forward, aiming to seize the future that the man Chisha Gold had sought. I am your emperor, Vincent Velakia, the sword wolf of the empire. One of them. My name is Natsuki Subaru, a passerby of thunderous fame, but an accomplice of the great liar Chisha Gold. Both declare their positions loudly and strongly, letting their voices resonate in the sky above the imperial capital. As the great disaster approaches the terrifying mass of enemies when they arrive, Subaru smirks, realizing that he had arranged the battlefield so that the greatest concentration of forces would gather in the imperial capital. And then, I will accept the baton you handed me. Destiny, bring it on. And with that, it ends. This is a possible misstep. With a single misalignment of the gears, the story is twisted, and the rails of destiny can easily change course. When the inevitable flow changes, the torrent of fate can toss people around like leaves in the wind. Still though, even so, if it is possible to reach the unchanging shore, where one remains steadfast despite everything, it must be when an unshakable, firm hope has fully deceived its destined fate. That singular lie, in the end, is the meaning of that man's life. This is my one-time stage, and I shall bring the curtain down myself. The end. This was a retelling of Arc 7, if Subaru aligned with Chisha Gold rather than Vincent and Velakia. For those that don't understand why I call this Natsumi IF, is because both Chisha and Subaru were deceiving Velakia. And that is the actual English name, is deceiving life in another world from Zero. Deceiving the fact that Subaru is cosplaying as Natsumi and Chisha is of course cosplaying as Vincent, and they're both deceiving the world. And that's the reason why I call this Natsumi IF, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Make sure to like and subscribe, and look forward to more rezero content.